Hi, Shauna here from Dancing Raven Studio. Welcome to Acrylic Painting 101 Basics for Beginners. Today is a lesson I've added in this lesson. I can't actually fit this into a 12-hour class, this piece of information, but this is YouTube, so I can do it here. When I teach a class in Yellowknife, I do all the prep work. I do all the different grids that you've been downloading. I prepare them all for everyone, and the other thing I do is I take a raw Masonite board and I prime it for everyone. And in fact, I can't teach this part of the lesson because there's just not enough time to do it. In this lesson, which I'm placing between lesson 9 and 10, I am calling it lesson 9 3/4. It's all about gesso. It's all about how to prepare our boards so that they're sealed well and we can get going. Grab your raw board and let's get going.
So here's a raw Masonite board. It's just a 5x7, and we are going to use GAC to seal it. Now, I bought a big container of the GAC 100, which is a universal sealant. It's flexible, so it's great for canvas or for boards. The GAC 200 is inflexible. You would only use it for solid surfaces. And why do you use GAC? It protects against support-induced discoloration. According to Golden, common supports such as canvas, linen, masonite contain water-extractable materials that can cause discoloration. I put it up on blocks because it's helpful to get it away from the table. I will seal the front, the back, and the sides, and I most likely will do 2 coats of GAC on it. I'm going to move that aside. So this gesso board is a pre-primed board. I find it really slippery, so I don't really like it. In fact, I'll use my own primer over top, but it has this stamp on the back that bleeds quite badly. Using GAC to seal against that is really very helpful. GAC is very important for that. Now I had a small brush, so I'm not going to finish the whole thing, and I just decide, hey, this is crazy. You don't need to do this. Now we're going to create the sampler of gessos. Now, if you were taking my class, you would have access to all of these different gessos, and my students do. We're going to start with Liquitex Gesso. This is a universal gesso. It's flexible, so it's good for canvas and can be used on boards as well. Golden Gesso. This also is a universal gesso, so it has flexibility, which is perfect for canvas. You wouldn't use the Sandable hard gesso, which we're going to come up to, on a canvas because it's rigid. It's not flexible. So this one is a super heavy gesso. Now, I have only ever played with it just on doing this sampler. I hadn't even opened it. And it leaves ridges and it leaves textures. And for those people who like that kind of stuff, it is definitely the way to go. Golden Sandable hard gesso is a gesso that you use on rigid surfaces. I use it on my boards. It's the one that I use the most. We're going to examine 2 clear versions of gesso. So we have the Liquitex and the Golden. And you would use this if you had a drawing underneath that you wanted to be able to see, and you needed it protected so that you didn't have graphite coming through and bleeding through into your paint. They both dry clear and are quite good. Another option for gesso is a black gesso that comes in a container that's just black. And I know there are artists who love to start with a black board, a black underpainting. Now I'm going to bring raw umber and I'm going to add it into the Golden Sandable hard gesso, which is the rigid support gesso. And I'm going to put that as my colored toned board. Now, remember the lesson that we talked about opacity of paint and transparency? This is when you need to know when your paint is transparent and not use a paint that's opaque to use with clear gesso. And you'll see that you can see through it, colors the board. Now I've gone and I've dried it, and now I'm just feeling the different textures, and you can feel the different grit and the different tooth on it. And surprisingly, the clear has the most tooth. Definitely when I added the paint, it changed the tooth of the gesso. Okay, moving my blocks over so that I can show you how I prime my boards. I get this little paint roller and a container, and I roll because I don't only just do one at a time. I do a lot of these, and I get ahead of myself. I roll it on, and I will do 2 to 3 coats on each side, including around the edge. So I just roll it on. I always let it dry at least 16 hours between layers. So nice and smooth, and it will take several layers. I am rather persnickety about how I do this, and so I'm very careful not to have too much paint. And if there's too much paint, you can see that I'm rolling. I'm trying to smooth it out as much as I can. And I will use a sanding block in between layers to make it smooth. And after I use the sanding block, I will use this tack cloth to pick up the excess dust. So when we do it, you want to do the front, the back, and all the way around the edges. You want to perfectly seal your board so it looks nice and tidy. I always like my back of my paintings to look tidy. To receive the handout for each of the lessons, head on over to my website, dancingravenstudio.ca. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next art video.